Assassin's Creed has long been known as the franchise that has never quite managed to perfect its own premise, despite various iterations and attempts having been made. In the words of our Lord and Savior Whitelight, Assassin's Creed is a franchise that is afraid of its own potential. And part of this, in my opinion, can be chalked down to Ubisoft's paradoxical ability to start from scratch every time that they make a new iteration of the Assassin's Creed formula, all while still making many of their elements of their games feel rather recycled. I don't know how they manage this to kind of start from zero and still make it feel like their games are just copies of one another. What seems to me and many fans like an obvious problem doesn't seem to register in the higher echelons of Ubisoft's decision-making body. And what's strange, at least in my view, is how oddly close the answers to this impossible question lie. We usually try and look at other companies or maybe even our own wild imagination as to what would be needed to create this perfect Assassin's Creed game that we never got, or at least one that feels fresh. But I actually think the solution is even closer than that. Ubisoft's own games all have aspects and mechanics that, if added to the basic Assassin's Creed formula, could revolutionize and perfect the experience, and finally give us a game that would fulfill this franchise's potential. Let's divide this thought experiment into 4 sections, each for the typical gameplay pillars that Ubisoft talks about when marketing any game: stealth, combat, parkour, and exploration. Can we find examples of these pillars executed perfectly within Ubisoft's own catalog, and therefore can we kind of Frankenstein a hypothetical game together that would be better than any Assassin's Creed game made to date? I'm going to make my argument and you let me know in the comments if you agree on whether this game would slap or if you would change anything to suit your own tastes. So let's start with the easiest one, which is parkour. I think this is going to be the least divisive one out of all of them. We don't even have to leave the franchise for this one. Ubisoft has created, in my opinion, the greatest third-person parkour system ever. In terms of accuracy and self-expression, the classic games reign supreme. Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed Revelations, it's really never gotten better than that in my opinion. But in terms of animations, Unity still gets hundreds of thousands of views on the internet because of how beautiful these animations are to look at. Now, a lot of people get confused and they believe that Unity has the best parkour, which in terms of animations and feel, it does. But because it doesn't work that consistently, I still believe that the old school parkour system is technically better. I think that if Ubisoft could blend the best of both worlds, which would perhaps require some sacrifice in terms of animations, the parkour system would already be perfect. I don't think that needs to be innovated upon at all. The flaw with the parkour in Assassin's Creed, especially the older games, is that it's a bit visually outdated. If you play the Ezio trilogy, as much as it's still a gem, you can tell how some of these animations are a bit outdated. And the second problem with parkour systems, the old ones, is that they're badly tutorialized, which leads people to believe that it's clunky and less good than something like Unity or Mirage. If Ubisoft figured out a way to bring that parkour back with some better animations and better tutorialization, it would be an easy home run for them. I really don't think they have to leave the franchise for this. So let's just jump on and look at stealth. The second easiest probably, because there are some stealth elements like social stealth in Assassin's Creed 2 or Brotherhood, tool use in Assassin's Creed Unity, and environmental stealth like in Black Flag that are amazing. They work perfectly, and all of these elements, in my opinion, are a must in a new Assassin's Creed game. I think in today's modern age, you don't have to make a sacrifice between those types of stealth. I think they all need to exist within the game. An assassin must feel acrobatic, stylish, and like an old-timey Batman basically, with many tools at their disposal. It's also vital they blend in the crowd and know how to use the world to their advantage, to be a blade in the crowd. This is something that we haven't gotten properly in a long time. Even in Mirage, it wasn't that good, to be honest. I think that crowd stealth and blending in with crowds is such a unique mechanic that I don't know why Ubisoft doesn't really focus on adding back into Assassin's Creed. But these stealth mechanics need to exist in the game. However, many don't know that Ubisoft didn't start doing stealth with Assassin's Creed. There's a couple of the franchises that could donate some of their ideas to this hypothetical AC game that we're building. Splinter Cell Blacklist is a hardcore stealth game that is often regarded as one of the best, if not the best game Ubisoft has ever made. It has some mechanics that add much more depth to the stealth systems that we currently have, such as taking into account light and noise, something that I think AC Shadows seems to incorporate, the speed at which you can move and create more or less sound and therefore change how easily you'll be detected. There's just so many cool mechanics that could be implemented into this hypothetical Assassin's Creed game. One cool thing that Assassin's Creed needs is noticeable impact on daylight and nighttime missions, which is something that Blacklist does, and that requires you to change your tactics and your level of aggressiveness depending on how easy it is to spot you. Overall, you want stealth to make you need to actually plan missions much more, which is I think what we're missing in Assassin's Creed that Splinter Cell has. You need to feel like you're actually taking the time to plan, that you need a tactic and you need to stick to that tactic in order to remain undetected and complete the mission. Incorporating these elements in Assassin's Creed missions just makes so much sense in my opinion, just because such a big part of the assassin fantasy, for me at least, is gathering information and figuring out a plan of action. So we have stealth, we have parkour. What about combat? Well, here's where it gets a bit more subjective, so I'm interested to hear what you think would make a good baseline for Assassin's Creed combat. I personally believe that For Honor combat system would work so well. Firstly, when I play that game, even though I completely suck at it, I am so engaged because I feel like I'm managing these weapons myself more than just pressing buttons at the right time and triggering animations. Being able to choose your stance, having to parry, using the right stance and then attack, defending, dodging, using combos, it just felt like a surprisingly fresh way of approaching video game combat that I haven't seen in other games, that it would work so well with Assassins. And there's a second reason for this, apart from just feeling more involved and like you're the one inventing this combat strategy instead of just triggering animations. That second reason is because this combat system doesn't scale, and we don't want it to scale. Assassins should easily be overwhelmed in combat for the most part, wanting to stick to the shadows where they have the advantage. So using this combat system would also mean that outside of 1v1 or 2v1 duels, there isn't much use or advantage in entering combat and killing everyone because you'll die pretty quickly. And that's kind of the fantasy that I want to have in my dream Assassin's Creed game. Now, I know not everyone is a fan of this combat system, but if you haven't played For Honor, I really recommend you give it a shot. Play as a samurai or some assassin-esque character to imagine what I'm talking about, and envision this happening in duels with Templars in some cool environments. I personally think that it's epic, it's cinematic, and I think it works great with the assassin game that we're building. So now we're at our final pillar after looking at stealth, combat, and parkour. The final pillar is exploration. Ubisoft used to be the pioneer for exploration in open world games. They're actually the ones who invented the whole like climb the tower to unveil points of interest that everyone does. So what game could we pull from that does exploration well beyond what they invented themselves? Now there are two ways I could go here. The simple and easy and less controversial answer is any of the Ghost Recon games or Far Cry games. Though not every game in that franchise is the cream of the crop when it comes to open world games, when they are good, like Far Cry 3, they're amazing. And exploration is a big part of that, mainly because the reward for exploring is worth it, which I think is a key aspect of adding exploration to your games, is making you feel like the choice you made to go off the beaten path and not follow the main quest felt worth it because of the reward you got, whether it was an item or a mission or a story moment or whatever it might be. This is something that AC desperately needs, because usually rewards for exploration are abstract things like more gold ingots or like chests that you can loot. This was especially a problem in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I think that they could really work on it because it's honestly not ideal. But I don't want to go down this easy path of suggesting those games. I want to suggest another game that I think Ubisoft could take from, and this is a bit out there, but bear with me. Immortals Phoenix Rising. I know, what the fuck am I talking about? Well, exploration in this game is pretty puzzle based, which I like. I like when you have to slow down between the running and stabbing in order to solve something, and to get a viable reward for it. This game has a healthy balance of signposted side missions and puzzles, as well as some that are not on the map. And this for me is a good blend, because sometimes you just kind of want to turn your brain off and do chill side missions that are perfectly spoon-fed to you, and other times you want to use your own brain and find something in the world that wasn't spoon-fed to you in order to feel like you're the one who's intelligent, you're the one who's figuring things out and discovering things and using your brain. So I do think that game does it well, especially because of the puzzle element, which I think works well with Assassin's Creed if you really think about it. Both of these franchises could do well in Assassin's Creed, but those are just my thoughts on how exploration can be mildly improved. And that is how I think you could make an Assassin's Creed game that takes the best elements of Ubisoft's success in the past, leaves behind their mistakes, and can finally give us a new and fresh and amazing Assassin's Creed that delivers on every aspect of the fantasy. However, I do think some of these game choices will be more popular than others, so let me know what you think and what you would pick. If you're a huge Ubisoft fan, I haven't played all of their games to be honest, but if you have played all of their games and you think I'm missing one of them, please let me know. And if you want to hear about another cool AC game idea that a lot of people have chimed in and given their opinion on, which is Assassin's Creed Modern Day and how I think it would work, you can watch this video now.